donk, donk, donk. Straight wheel. Bang, 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 donk, 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 bang, bang, bang. And the radiator was smashed in the crash. So I bought a radiator off eBay. So what's this video about? This video is about repairing a radiator for free with a hole in it, or near about for free. See this right here? So now that we got a running bike and we wanted to go get a radiator off eBay, we've got a radiator here to use. It came in used from eBay, but it's got a hole in it. See right there, guys. I don't know if camera's focusing, but that hole is leaking. I did mount this and pressurize it, get it up to temperature, and water was squirting out. So what you do is you wash all the coolant out with water in the sink. You don't want any glycol or chemical inside the radiator because it'll leak out when you're putting the JB Weld in, and it won't dry correctly and won't adhere to the hole. So you don't want anything in there but water, okay? You can use alcohol, like this brake parts cleaner stuff, and you can do this. But the problem with cleaning it that way is you got to watch hitting it with heat, because when you hit that with heat, it's going to want to flame up because it's flammable. So I just use water. I just wash everything with water. Wash the inside of the radiator, flush it through, turn the radiator like this so that water runs down through the cores, and you want to get all that clean inside and out. And then you want to hit it with a torch just to dry it off. See all that steam getting ready to come off? I don't know if you can make that out in the camera or not. See that steam cooking off? That's exterior, but it's also water going to be heating off and cooking from the inside. You want to get that good and hot and make it nice and dry from all different angles and directions, okay? Once you do that, then you want to press the core tight. Why do you want to press the core tight? Well, it just minimizes the pressure against the leak. It's not going to seal it, but you don't want a big gaping hole. You want a real small, tiny little crack. So you want to do exactly what I'm about to do with this. See how I jammed those pliers in there? Back the camera out a little bit. See how I jammed those pliers in there, and I just squeeze those cores shut. You're just minimizing the surface area by which the JB Weld has to hold, okay? And there's suspicion that it's on 2 cores, not just 1, so I'm going to go ahead and smash both cores shut. Okay, and do this from both sides, guys. See how thick that core is? You can't smash the other side all the way through. So you got to do the work of lining it up, reaching through, seeing where the damage is, and doing that. You can use a zip tie for that. You can use all kind of little techniques, safety wire, whatever. But use that as an indicator, and then mash the other appropriate side of the cores as well. Guys, once you got a nice, good, dry, mashed up, closed off core going across that radiator, and you want to mix up some of this epoxy. You can use a couple different brands. You can get stuff at Lowe's or Home Depot, JB Weld, Defcon. There's a bunch of different brands of this stuff. This is the Worth version. We use the Worth version here, W-U-R-T-H, because it does a little better job of gluing plastic. It's more of like a plastic welding type epoxy. And we do a lot of OEM bodywork stuff, and I use it for that. But in this case, it'll do fine to plug this radiator up. So you just want to make sure it's good and mixed. And you want to get it deep down in these cores. You want to fill those crevices and holes that you made with the pliers. You want to get all down in and around. You want to get enough on the surface that it leaks down in. You really want to pack this. You know, not to get sloppy or messy, but more is better when you're doing this. If you don't get the epoxy through the fins on the first try, then what happens is it dries up on the surface and the leaks continue on the back side. And if that happens, you're in trouble, because once you get all that gobbledygook dried up on the front surface, you can't reach the back. Your access is now limited. You don't want that. So you want to make sure you get it clean and dry the first time. You want to smash the cores, get some big giant holes for that stuff to go through and hold on to. And then you want to really pack it down in the fins from the front of that surface. You really want to do like I'm doing here and massage and knead and get that stuff down in those fins. Okay. I know this is Cycle for Life motorcycle racing and bicycle racing channel, but you guys can do this with Ford trucks, Caterpillars, forklifts, big drive mowers, whatever that has a radiator. Okay, they all work the same. So just get that. See how I'm pushing that epoxy down in the fins? I'm pushing it down in. See how I'm taking the little tip of that flat blade and just working it through. You can see those 4 big holes, 6 big holes where the prongs on the needle nose went in, and that's you want to make sure you get some in there as an anchor, and then push it down in the fins. I hate to be redundant, I hate to keep saying the same thing over and over again, but I just cannot stress enough how important it is to get enough down in the fins, press down in there the first time. Because once this dries, you won't be able to get down in there to get to that leak again. Okay, so do a good job. And you want to let it dry level and flat. You want to approximate level as best you can, and just let it soak down into the fins. And then after it dries on that side, then you flip the whole thing over and do the exact same process on the other side. And you attack those crushed cores and you attack those fins for the same way from 2 sides. And I've done this technique before on racing radiators that get super hot and stay hot through 6 and 8 hour endurance races and never had a problem. This is a really good way to do the repair, but you want to make sure you use a high quality 2-part mixing epoxy. You don't want to try some cheap silicone or glue. You want a 2-part mixing epoxy that costs a few bucks, something quality. And yeah, once that dries up and goes down in those fins, guys, we'll hit it from the other side. So okay guys, when that's what it looks like when you get done epoxying both sides. See how it's built up a little bit, and just let gravity feed it down in on both sides. And you do want to make sure you attack it from both sides. If you go in just from one side, it'll build pressure and push out the back. So you want to seal those cores off on both ends, and we'll let that epoxy settle overnight. We'll reinstall this radiator tomorrow, and I'm confident it'll hold pressure. Alright guys, that's how you fix radiator leaks. Okay guys, good morning. It is the next morning since I let that epoxy dry. You can see I got it on both sides, and I just let gravity feed it down in. I laid it flat so that the epoxy would drip down into the fins, turned it over to the other side, laid it flat, drip in the other side. So I got epoxy packed in from both directions, and I've reinstalled the radiator and filled it up. Got water up to the top there. There's the brim. So we'll go ahead and fire this thing up and run it for, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 minutes, just till we feel the engine get hot. And we'll see if we can build pressure. The quickest, easiest way the proper way to do this is put a pressure tester on there, which I have, and that's what we use for work in our customer bikes. But a quick, easy way you guys can do that at home is just feel the pressure on that hose and see if it's building pressure. Okay, right now there's no resistance, as the hose gets warm, it'll get even more pliable. So if it gets more pliable after 5 minutes of running, you're not holding pressure. It got more pliable because it warmed up. If it gets less pliable and real balloony and pressurized, well, now you know you're holding pressure. That's how you test it at home. Okay guys, we're going to fire this up and see what we get. Okay, temperature readings into the base of the radiator are about 160 degrees F. Let's get them on the back of the block where the water cooled jacket is, about 158 degrees F. So we're still 40 or 50 degrees away from operating temperature. We're going to heat this thing up to about 210. I don't need to go all the way to 220, which is when a fan would kick in. But I'll take it up to 210 and make sure that there's no leaks at that point and make sure that it's still bone dry. Residual crap burning off the exhaust pipe where, you know, stuff got spilled on it or whatever. The bike's been sitting a long time. Stuff burning off the pipe. No big deal. The hose is starting to build some pressure. It's feeling like a balloon now. You know, it's got that spring back firmness to it. So it is holding pressure. See water starting to drip out? That's pressure building up in the coolant system, pushing water out into what would be a coolant reservoir bottle. I've got it just dripping on the ground because I want to make sure the radiator stays dry, but that would be where, you know, a bottle would be on the other end of that. It's getting warmer now. Still no evidence of leaks. Nice and bone dry. You can see little remnants of moisture from where the radiator still had some liquid in it from where I cleaned it off, cooking off and steaming off, but I don't see any wetness. I don't see any wetness anywhere. We're still pushing water out of the reservoir hose. See how much is dripped? Not a whole lot, just a little bit of accumulation. Probably had some bubbles that bubbled through and pushed their way up. But you got a nice firm radiator hose there, guys. Really firm. Oh, and 211 or 12 on the block. That's about as hot as I would ever race it. It shouldn't ever get any hotter than that under load. And we're still seeing completely dry radiator. Completely dry radiator. So the radiator repair held.